So I believe into Tuesday of next week. So at this point, we should be pretty much like close to done, if not done with all like the visual elements of the project, the photo stuff. We've got our central image, we've got our background, we've got our masthead. So now it's time to start inserting the text. So last time I saw you, I highly recommended typing in all of your information on this magazine planning sheet. Um, Not trying to make more work for you, but it will spell check for you and all of those nice things. And that saves us a lot of time. Photoshop doesn't do that, unfortunately. So we talked about how the cover line has to do with who on the front cover. Yeah, the giant person that's on your cover. And generally, the size of their cover line is going to be like the biggest part of your project. Your next biggest text part after your masthead. So I'm going to start to insert my text and show you like a bunch of different things you can do. So it's recorded and you can always go back to it. But generally, what I do here, you're going to apply to like the rest of the text you're adding your project. So the requirement is you have to have your cover line and the cover line description. And then the teasers, plugs, they're like a little duo. You need to have 3 each of those. You could always do more, but the project requires you that you're going to have at least 3 teasers and plugs and your cover line and its description. So if you fill out this form and you basically take everything from the form and copy and paste it into your project, you're going to be good. Okay. So the first one just says Jimmy Fallon for my cover line, so I'm not going to copy and paste that. The best suggestion I can make for you when you're doing text in Photoshop is just use this regular little T icon. And what I like to do is stretch my box from like end to end of the paper. If you don't make a box beforehand, it's just going to like keep typing off the page, and you don't want to deal with that. It's like way too much work. So right now I'm typing, and you can probably see I can't see it. So chances are the text is too big. So I'm going to size it down a little bit. There we go. Sweet. And I can't see them right now. So what should I do with the text so I could see it? Yeah, move it above the picture of Jimmy Fallon so I could see it. Okay. So text choice. Let's bash it. Why is this probably not a great choice for me? It's really bright. Yeah, it doesn't really match anything. What else isn't great about it? Let's look at some covers here. What kind of like, how should my font look like for my Entertainment Weekly cover? Okay, their text seems to be like a lot taller, especially on these versions here. And I know you're not going to find the exact font, totally not upset about that, but we want to try something that's similar to our magazine. And let's talk about colors of the font. Like when I'm looking at the magazine covers, I'm not seeing a rainbow of text colors. There's usually only like 1 to 2. It depends on your magazine. So it looks like I could get away with 1 color for everything, or maybe I could get away with 2, like this black and white. It looks like I have a few options with that. Okay. Let's talk about where they're placing the text. What does the text definitely never, ever, ever cover? The face, the picture. So, it's going to go over some of the unimportant parts like a shoulder or the chest, but we're never covering what is the moneymaker, essentially, which is the face. Okay. Nice tip, since I don't like the way this font looks, I could double click the T in your layers here, and I could go in and pick a different font, which is nice. And changing the font is pretty similar to like using Word or Google Docs. It's not really, there's nothing too new there, which is nice. I didn't think about picking a font before, but I'll just go with that for now just to get it out of the way. And I need something to kind of contrast his face. Yeah, maybe I'll go with like a grayish white to start. Okay. So there's one text box, and when I'm done, I'll hit the little check mark, kind of like when I transform something. Okay. So you've got your text size, you can change the alignment, your color, all that stuff is at the top here when you adjust it. Okay. Then I recommend for your next piece, my cover line description says his journey through stand-up, SNL, and late night. So I'm treating that kind of like a sentence. And I definitely want to make a new text box. So I'm going to click and drag. And I'm going to try it across the bottom of the page. I'm going to paste it. And clearly this is really big. So I'm going to go a lot smaller, maybe something like that to start. I'm not wild about the font, but I just want to go through it right now just to get it done. So I can, it looks like I'm going to keep it centered for now, but I could always like adjust the alignment and stuff like that. Let me show you. I just want to show you one other option. Uh, Another nice thing you could do, especially if you can't see something very well, is to use your FX menu and you could do like a drop shadow, which is nice. And you've got these three sliders, the distance and spread. That will help make things a little bit easier if it's hard to see. And you could even do stroke, which we learned, well, that's a lot. We learned about that a few projects ago too. Let's go to stroke for a minute. Yeah, that's way too thick. So you could do an outline along something too. I don't need those right now, but I wanted to give you that option. Okay. So not wild about the way this looks at the moment, but I'm going to hold shift so I could show you the next thing. Now, based on what you're seeing here, do you find like the text really easy to read right now? Agreed. Why is it not fantastic? Yeah, it's hard because he's got the black coat, but he's got the light shirt. So I could also sit here and I could try and move it around a little bit. And maybe I'm going to do something more like this, lower. Maybe I could keep Jimmy Fallon like that. And then maybe I'm going to break the text into like 2 lines. So if it's a little bit more equal like that, and maybe I could put it more on like the black of his coat, that could work too. I always want to leave a little bit of margin space. I don't want to go right to the edge, so I can use my arrows to scooch him over. Another option, which you're probably going to do a billion times, is you're probably going to resize your person. You may have to do that during the project, and maybe I have to push Jimmy a little bit more to one side so I have some more room here. It's kind of what depends on what they're wearing and what you see in the background of your project, to be honest. It's kind of a playing game with that kind of stuff. I really hate this font, but I just want to kind of get through this too. I can change it after. One more tidbit, and then I promise I'm going to leave you alone. You may not have to use these, but they can be really helpful for you. When we're adjusting our text, if you go to Window, Character, there's a lot of like more options for text. So sometimes you're just like really need to make something fit perfectly and you're just having a hard time doing that. And you want your lines to be a little closer together. You could use this A on top of the A, and that's called leading. So if I want to make my lines a lot closer together, like that's way too much, but I could go in and I could buy myself a little bit more room that way. I don't want them to touch, so that's still not great. But you could adjust your spacing a lot that way. And the one that says V/A here, that's your tracking, or kerning's another term, and that pushes your like the distance between your letters closer together. Again, you may not ever touch those, and that's totally fine, but it gives you some options. Okay. I'm just going to quickly put in a cover, a teaser, and a plug, just so we're not totally lost, and then I will leave you be. So if I'm looking, we'll base it on that fall video here. Think about the alignment on your project. So like if I'm looking at all this text on the left-hand side, does the text start more on the left like margin, or is it more like centered? Yeah, it's more aligned to the left. So doing the alignment is going to be really important as well to make sure that you get everything to work really well. So I try and leave a little bit of space, and I don't remember what one of mine was, but let me type in one more, then I promise I'll leave you alone because I know you want to get working. So mine says The Sopranos prequel. Can the many saints of Newark stay true to its roots? Let's do that. Okay, and like I said, I always do a second text box for different items. So size-wise, if one's more of a title and one's more fine print, what should I do size-wise to my plug at the bottom that I have selected here? If it's less significant, should it be bigger or smaller? Good. So I could go just a little bit something like that to give me some variation. Like I said, I could decide if I want like different colors, but I don't want to go wild and make it rainbowy and distracting. I don't know if I like that, but maybe a dark gray would be nice. That could be a nice option. Okay. So I have options that way too. I like to use my arrows a lot when I move these little pieces of text around. It makes life a lot easier. Um, so as you're working, you may see like, oh, I'm going to switch out the background. This is too busy. Feel free, go back, change, do all of those things. And it's kind of like it's a little bit of an adjustment game at this point, trying to get everything through. So I'm going to keep working on it and adjust the font because I very much don't like this font, and work on some colors a little bit so it's a little easier to read. And you're going to spend the next about 2 to 3 days in class working on the text part, making it look realistic. This is the moneymaker. This is the part that makes the project look realistic. We want to make sure we're spelled correctly, our capitalization looks good, because if a magazine came out with those errors on it, that magazine would get like banished on the internet. So keep those things in mind. Do you have any questions so far? Alrighty.